May I speak to you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Please be seated. Advent reflects the season of our life that is meant to be filled with hope and anticipation. That could be a wedding, the birth of a child or grandchild, the return of a loved one from college for the holidays, or the homecoming of a service member who has been gone for months on end and will finally be home this Christmas after missing countless others. But they won't be missing this Christmas. This Christmas, they are home. They are here. They are right where they belong, and they are not missing. They are present, and it feels right. How blessed we are if we can say this. And songs make up a big part of what Christmas is, and they make up a big part of what this Sunday's gospel is all about. Now, being a non-native of Oklahoma, I wasn't aware of just how big songs make up what part of Oklahoma's history is all about. Songs are a big part of Oklahoma's Christmas history. One in particular, in fact. I'm not real keen on how the words go exactly, so you might have to help me in case I get it wrong. But I think it goes something like this. Jewelry is the gift to give, because it's the gift that lives and lived. If you know it, help me out here. So give the gift, that's it, you heard it, right? Right. So now here we are, the season of Advent, preparing for the birth of Christ. And we're getting ready to hear the Song of Mary. But I wonder if there's another song, one that we might sing if we knew the date and time that we would see Christ for the second time. For you see, Advent is just as much about preparing ourselves for the second coming of Christ as well as it is the first. And we can tie both of those events together through song. The Song of Mary rises up through the gospel reading, breaking through the pages into our hearts as it does every year. And it awakens us, it quickens us, just as it did the child in the womb. Advent is here to remind us that we cannot save ourselves, but that there is hope. Mary, the unwed mother and fiancée of a poor carpenter, Mary, who knows the depths and desperation and shame that many of us will never know. Mary, who has felt powerless and helpless, begins to sing to God, and the entire world is about to change. Everything, the very shape of human history, is about to change. Hope is about to be born, so she sings. I wonder, would you sing if you knew that the song you were singing on Christmas or Christmas Eve might very well be the last one you ever sang? How would you know? Is it possible to even know that maybe the last song you sang today would be the last? For some folks, it was. It was December 24th, 1914. 6 months into World War I, and both German and Allied forces had hunkered down under the brutal clash of weapons for the past 6 months. But that night, Christmas Eve, the fighting in some places had stopped. It stopped, and in its place, singing. Songs began to rise up from the ground and from the trenches. First, from the German side, Stille God. And the English and the French were listening. And they said, they're singing bloody well, actually. So in response, they started singing Silent Night as well. And it was going pretty well. Stille God over here, Silent Night over here. And then, from across no man's land, the English and the French see something coming across no man's land. Just one thing. Rifles come up. But nobody fires because it's just one young German soldier. He's not carrying a rifle. He's carrying a pole with a white flag on it. So about that time, a French soldier, an English soldier, they lay down their guns. They go out there and they meet him. Right there in the middle of no man's land. There, in that God-forsaken strip of property between the two trenches where so many had fallen and died, the two sides met. And among the flares, they had a football game. And they exchanged cigarettes, whiskey, and Richard Sherman, who was in a German regiment, holding a position on the Bergstein, wrote an account a year later in December 1915, and in it he said, "When the Christmas bells sounded in the villages of the Vosges behind the lines, something fantastically unmilitary occurred. German and French troops spontaneously made peace and ceased hostilities. They visited each other through disused trench tunnels and exchanged wine, cognac, and cigarettes for pumpernickel bread, biscuits, and ham. This suited them so well that they remained good friends even after Christmas was over. Each man knew that December 25th may very well be the last day of their lives, and that the songs they sung that night could very well be the last songs they would ever sing. So they sang. They sang with their friends that they had fought with for the last 6 months, and they sang with those that they had fought against, and for a time there was hope. There was hope that if the world could just get out of the way for a moment and allow people to come together, even if it's in no man's land, then maybe change could occur. Several other attempts were made in the years after 1914 to cease hostilities over Christmas, but to no effect. Further actions of this nature, in fact, were not allowed by the military leadership from both sides, and the fighting plowed on for years, Christmas or not. And the war did what wars do. It took lives, and it gave little in return, least of all hope, and least of all singing. Hope is more than simply optimism. A lot of hope can shake the very foundations of the things that weigh us down. A lot of hope can change the course of history and move men and women to do incredibly brave things. Now, as for Mary, she doesn't initially welcome the news of her being pregnant with soaring song and blazing hope. When Luke's gospel first introduces us to her, she is young, she is meek, seemingly timid, but ultimately she is faithful. When the angel tells her the good news, she consents, but she's not singing yet. She's taking all this in from the angel Gabriel, that she will conceive and bear a child. He tells her perhaps she needed someone who might believe this story, that Elizabeth, your relative, is pregnant too, even in her old age. Gabriel doesn't actually tell Mary to go to Elizabeth, but Luke says she still made haste to go to the Judean town in the hill country to see her, and why not? Mary wants to be around someone who understands. Elizabeth is also pregnant by a miracle. Elizabeth, Mary knows, won't think that she's crazy. And here, with another person who kind of gets it, who finally understands that God works in weird in unexpected, direct ways, Mary is able to find the courage to sing her song of hope. Not ordinary optimism, mind you, but real, great hope. The kind that catches fire, the kind that sings out loud. This is Mary's swan song. This life that she knew before is over. Her life is about to be radically transformed. Today, Mary sings as she invites us into the vulnerable territory of daring to hope big. Optimism takes a look behind us to take comfort in what we have experienced before. Hope, the marquee world-shaking musical of Mary, looks ahead knowing that we cannot possibly imagine what God is getting ready to do. Our song is one of hope. Hope that has seen the broken and divided state of the world and knows that it cannot afford to hope too small and that we cannot repair the problems on our own. Only God can and only God will. In the meantime, however, we are called to make our world that God has given us a little less divided, a little more trustworthy, a little more hopeful, more helpful, and more loving. My prayer for you this Advent season is that your home, your life, is more full of those things that bring you joy and happiness and that cause your heart and your soul to sing to the Lord. Mary's song of hope is that it is never hope unfulfilled. Even in the darkness, even in the deepest disappointments, even when we are betrayed and even when the world looks most broken, we keep hope alive that God has and God will always